Imagine finding a sophisticated NLL computer thousands of years before computers were thought to exist. Or how about an ancient map showing coastlines that modern science only charted centuries later, perhaps even depicting Antarctica without its ice? And get this, there are strange metallic pipes embedded deep within rock formations, dated to be many thousands, if not millions of years old. These aren't scenes from a science fiction movie. They are actual discoveries that have left experts scratching their heads, offering tantalizing glimpses into a past that might be far more complex and mysterious than we currently understand. Get ready to explore some historical oddities that just don't quite fit. Number 11. The Antikythera Mechanism, an ancient analog computer. Found by sponge divers in 1901, near the Greek island of Antikythera, this corroded lump of bronze initially gave little clue to its incredible nature. It was recovered from a Roman-era shipwreck dated to around 70 to 60 BC. For decades, it sat in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, largely unstudied, considered just another piece of debris from the ancient world. But as conservation efforts began and imaging technology improved, researchers started to realize they had something extraordinary on their hands. What emerged from the encrusted fragments was a device of astounding complexity, consisting of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, some with incredibly fine teeth. Detailed the 10th ray tomography and surface imaging in the 21st century revealed intricate internal structures and inscriptions previously hidden. These inscriptions, essentially a user manual, described the cosmos as known to the ancient Greeks. The mechanism wasn't just a static model, it was a working geared device. Researchers now understand the Antikythera Mechanism to be an incredibly sophisticated astronomical calculator, or analog computer. It could predict the positions of the Sun, Moon, and likely the 5 planets known in antiquity: Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. It could also predict solar and lunar eclipses with remarkable accuracy, even accounting for the Moon's elliptical orbit using a clever pin and slot mechanism that mimicked Kepler's later laws of planetary motion. Furthermore, it had dials to track a Fourier cycle, likely corresponding to the Pan-Hellenic Games, including the ancient Olympic Games. The sheer ingenuity and precision engineering of the Antikythera Mechanism are what make it so anomalous. Nothing even approaching its complexity is known to have existed for at least another 1,000 years, until the development of geared astronomical clocks in medieval Europe. Its existence challenges the conventional view of technological capabilities in the Hellenistic period. How was such a device conceived and constructed? Were there other similar mechanisms that have been lost to time? And why did this advanced technological tradition seemingly disappear, leaving no direct successors for centuries? The Antikythera Mechanism stands as a testament to a level of ancient genius that we are only just beginning to fully appreciate, a silent witness from a shipwreck that continues to rewrite technological history. Number 10. The Piri Rice Map, a chart of Antarctica before its discovery. In 1929, a remarkable discovery was made in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, Turkey. While catalog items in the library, a German theologian named Gustav Adolf Deismann stumbled upon a section of a map drawn on gazelle skin. The map was signed by an Ottoman admiral and cartographer named Piri Reis and dated to the month of Muharram in the Islamic year 919 AH, which corresponds to 1513 AD. Piri Reis himself noted on the map that he had compiled it using around 20 older source maps, including some allegedly from the time of Alexander the Great, and even a map supposedly obtained from a captured Spanish sailor who had sailed with Christopher Columbus on his voyages to the New World. The Piri Rice Map accurately depicts parts of the western coasts of Europe and North Africa and the coast of Brazil. This in itself is impressive for the early 16th century. However, what has fueled intense debate and speculation for decades is its depiction of the southern land mass. Some interpretations suggest that the map shows the coastline of Antarctica. The truly startling part is that Antarctica was not officially discovered until 1820 by a Russian expedition. Furthermore, some proponents of an anomalous interpretation claim that the coastline shown on the Piri Reis Map represents Antarctica before it was covered by its current massive ice cap, which is thought to have formed millions of years ago. Skeptics argue that the supposed Antarctic coastline is more likely a distorted representation of the South American coast, possibly bent to fit the confines of the gazelle skin, or based on contemporary theories about a great southern continent, Terra Australis Incognita, that was believed to exist. They point out inaccuracies in other parts of the map when compared to modern cartography. Scientific analysis of ice cores from Antarctica does not support the idea of a recently ice-free continent in the areas depicted. Yet, the map's inclusion of features resembling land in the far south with a level of detail that some find compelling continues to fascinate. If Piri Reis did indeed use source maps from antiquity, what knowledge did those ancient cartographers possess? Could there have been ancient voyages to the southern polar regions that are unrecorded in mainstream history? The map itself notes that some of its source charts were from infidel sources, and Piri Reis mentions how he synthesized diverse geographical information. The Piri Reis Map remains a controversial pekic, a cartographic puzzle that hints at lost knowledge or extraordinary ancient seafaring capabilities. Depending on how one chooses to interpret its lines and annotations, it forces us to question the completeness of our historical records and the true extent of exploration in ages past. Number 9. The Baghdad Battery. Ancient electricity. In 1936, during archaeological excavations near Kujut Rubble, a village southeast of Baghdad, Iraq, peculiar terracotta pots were discovered. These artifacts, dating from the Parthian or Sasanian periods, roughly between 250 BC and 650 AD, were unassuming at first glance. Each pot, about 5 to 6 inches tall, contained a copper cylinder. Inside this copper cylinder was an iron rod, held in place by an asphalt stopper that also sealed the top of the pot. The iron rod was isolated from the copper cylinder and showed signs of corrosion, as if from an acidic substance. Wilhelm Koenig, the German archaeologist, who was then director of the National Museum of Iraq, examined these objects in 1938. He was struck by their resemblance to galvanic cells, or simple batteries. Posed that these Baghdad batteries, as they came to be known, might have been used to generate electricity. If true, this would mean that some form of electrical knowledge existed nearly 2 millennia before Alessandro Volta invented the modern chemical battery in 1800. Experiments have since been conducted to test this hypothesis. Replicas of the Baghdad batteries, when filled with an electrolyte like grape juice, vinegar, or copper sulfate solution, all readily available in ancient Mesopotamia, have been shown to produce a small but measurable electric current, typically between 0.5 and 1.5 volts. Question then arises, if they were batteries, what were they used for? Several theories have been proposed. One popular idea is that they were used for electroplating, perhaps to gild objects with a thin layer of gold or silver. Evidence for ancient electroplating in the region is, however, scarce and debated. Other suggestions include use in religious rituals to create a tingling sensation, or for medicinal purposes, perhaps a rudimentary form of electrotherapy. Skeptics, however, argue that there is no definitive proof these artifacts were batteries at all. They suggest the pots might have been storage vessels for sacred scrolls, with the metal components and asphalt seal protecting the delicate papyrus or parchment from the elements. The acidic residue could be from the decomposition of the scrolls themselves. They point to the lack of wires or any other associated electrical equipment found with the pots. Furthermore, there are no contemporary texts from the Parthian or Sasanian periods that mention anything resembling electrical phenomena or devices. Despite the skepticism, the design of the Baghdad Battery is undeniably intriguing. The careful arrangement of dissimilar metals, separated by a potential space for an electrolyte, strongly echoes the fundamental principles of a voltaic cell. Whether they were intentionally designed as power sources or their battery-like properties are purely coincidental remains an open question. The Baghdad batteries continue to spark curiosity, representing a technological possibility that, if confirmed, would significantly alter our understanding of ancient scientific achievements. Number 8. The Saqqara Bird, an ancient Egyptian glider. Discovered in 1898 during the excavation of a tomb in Saqqara, Egypt, a small wooden pecked, now known as the Sakara Bird, has puzzled Egyptologists and aviation enthusiasts for over a century. The tomb where it was found dates back to around 200 BC, during the Ptolemaic period. The biped itself is carved from sycamore wood, measures about 6 inches in length, with a wingspan of just over 7 inches, and weighs approximately 39 grams. It has a bird-like form, with a distinct fuselage, wings, and a tail. Initially, it was classified as a model of a bird and stored away with other avian representations in the Cairo Museum. However, in 1969, Dr. Kaylee Messiha, an Egyptologist and medical doctor, re-examined the object and was struck by several features that seemed uncharacteristic of a simple bird effigy. He noted that its wings were shaped more like modern airfoils, thick at the leading edge and tapering towards the trailing edge, providing aerodynamic lift. Unlike most bird models, it lacked legs. Its tail was vertical, resembling the rudder of an aircraft, rather than the horizontal tail feathers of a bird. Dr. Macy suggested that the Sakara Bird might be a model of an ancient aircraft, specifically a glider. This interpretation gained traction among some who believed ancient civilizations might have possessed more advanced knowledge than conventionally accepted. Proponents point to the object's aerodynamic proportions. Some have built replicas of the Sakara Bird, and a few have claimed successful, albeit short gliding flights. They also highlight that the object has a notch or slot on its tail, which they speculate might have once held a horizontal stabilizer, now missing, which would have improved its flight characteristics. However, the majority of Egyptologists and aerodynamic experts remain skeptical of the ancient glider theory. They argue that the bebig is more likely a ceremonial object, a child's toy, or a weather vane. They point out that while it has some aerodynamic qualities, it is not perfectly designed for stable flight without modifications, such as a proper horizontal stabilizer, for which there is no definitive evidence. Context of its discovery in a tomb, alongside other more conventional grave goods, also suggests a ritualistic or symbolic purpose, rather than a functional, technological one. Some experts suggest it might represent a particular species of bird, perhaps a falcon associated with the god Horus, depicted in a stylized form. The debate over the Sakara Bird's true identity continues. Was it merely a stylized representation of a bird, a whimsical toy, or a sophisticated model of a flying machine created thousands of years before the Wright brothers? Without further context or similar discoveries, the little wooden peckett from Saqqara remains an enigmatic piece of the past, its true purpose soaring just beyond our definitive grasp, challenging us to consider the possibility of unexpected ancient ingenuity. Number 7. The Dendura Light, ancient Egyptian light bulbs. Deep within the Hathor Temple at Dendura, Egypt, a complex dating back to the Ptolemaic and Roman periods, are a series of intricate and unusual carvings that have sparked considerable debate. Located in a subterranean crypt, These reliefs depict elongated bulb-like objects, each containing a serpent-like figure extending from a lotus flower base. These bulbs appear to be connected by a cable or stem to a rectangular box or pedestal, often identified as a jed pillar, a symbol of stability associated with the god Osiris. Human figures are shown interacting with these objects. Proponents of an unconventional interpretation, most notably authors like Erich von Daniken, have suggested that these reliefs depict ancient electrical lighting systems akin to giant Crookes tubes or arc lamps. They argue that the bulb is a glass envelope, the serpent is a filament or an electrical discharge, the lotus flower is a socket, and the cable represents wiring connected to a power source, the jed pillar interpreted as an insulator or generator. They point to the lack of soot on the ceilings of many Egyptian tombs and temples as evidence that the ancient Egyptians must have used a smokeless form of illumination, possibly electrical. According to this theory, the jed pillar could symbolize a source of high voltage, and the entire scene represents a sophisticated understanding of electricity. Some have even drawn parallels between the shape of the objects and early experimental discharge tubes developed in the 19th century. The depiction of supporting figures holding up the bulbs has been interpreted as insulators or stands. However, mainstream Egyptologists and historians offer a far more conventional, mythological interpretation of these reliefs. They explain the imagery within the context of ancient Egyptian creation myths and religious symbolism. The elongated object is generally identified as a representation of a sacred bark or a depiction of the cosmos. The lotus flower is a common symbol of creation and rebirth. The serpent emerging from it is often associated with the god Harsamtus, a form of Horus, or with creative primeval forces. The jed pillar is a well-established symbol representing the backbone of Osiris, signifying stability, power, and resurrection. Thus, the scenes are interpreted as depicting the birth of a deity from a lotus, or a mythological event related to the cyclical nature of creation and the cosmos, illuminated by the divine. Egyptologists also counter the no-soot argument by pointing out that many tombs and temples do show evidence of soot from oil lamps or torches, and that skilled artisans could have worked using reflective surfaces to maximize light, or worked in short bursts allowing smoke to clear. They also note that there is no archaeological evidence of any associated electrical apparatus, no wires, no filaments, no glass bulbs found anywhere in Egypt. The reliefs are carved in stone, not depictions of actual working devices. Despite the strong mythological explanations, the visual resemblance of the Dendura carvings to early electrical devices continues to fuel speculation. Are these purely symbolic religious scenes, or do they hint at a lost, high technology in ancient Egypt? The Dendura Lights remain a fascinating example of how ancient art can be interpreted in vastly different ways, depending on one's perspective and assumptions about the past. Number 6. The Voyic Manuscript. An unbreakable code, or an elaborate hoax. The Voyic Manuscript is one of history's most enduring bibliographical mysteries. It is a handwritten codex or book of about 240 vellum pages, filled with curious illustrations and an unknown script that has defied every attempt at telekition for over a century. Its origins are obscure, but radiocarbon dating of the vellum has placed its creation in the early 15th century, likely between 1404 and 1438. The manuscript gets its name from Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish-American rare book dealer who acquired it in 1912 from a Jesuit college near Rome. What makes the Voyic manuscript so baffling is its content. Text is written from left to right, composed of an elegant flowing script made up of unfamiliar characters. Some characters resemble Latin letters or Arabic numerals, while others are unique. Statistical analysis of the text suggests it follows patterns consistent with natural languages such as word frequency and entropy, ruling out a simple random string of characters from many researchers. However, no one has been able to translate a single word. The manuscript is lavishly illustrated with colorful drawings that are as enigmatic as the text, cosmological, with circular diagrams that are abstract and difficult to interpret, pharmaceutical showing labeled drawings of plant parts next to jar-like containers, and continuous text, often referred to as recipes. Numerous professional and amateur cryptographers, including codebreakers from World War I and World War II, linguists and computer scientists, have tried to crack the Voynich code. Hypotheses about its language range from a lost natural language, a ciphered known language, like Latin, German, or a Romance language, an artificial language, or even a form of glossolalia, speaking in tongues. Despite sophisticated computational analysis and countless hours of study, the manuscript's meaning remains elusive. This has led some to propose that the Voynich manuscript might be an elaborate hoax, a meaningless jumble of symbols created to defraud a wealthy collector. Perhaps even the Holy Roman Emperor Rudolph II, who was a known buyer of curious and esoteric items in the late 16th century, and is one of its earliest documented owners. However, the complexity of the text, its apparent linguistic structures, and the effort involved in creating such a detailed and illustrated work make the hoax theory less convincing for some researchers. The fact that the vellum dates to the early 15th century means if it is a hoax, it's a very old one. Is the Voynich manuscript a lost encyclopedia of arcane knowledge, a coded alchemical text, a botanical guide to alien plants, or simply the brilliant, meaningless creation of a medieval con artist? Until its script is deciphered or conclusive evidence of its nature is found, it will remain a profound enigma, a book that teases us with the possibility of hidden wisdom or mocks us with its inscrutability. Number 5. The Iron Pillar of Delhi. Rust-proof, ancient metallurgy. Standing tall in the Kut complex in Delhi, India, is a remarkable metallurgical marvel. The Iron Pillar. This pillar is approximately 7.21 meters, 23 feet 8 inches high, with 1.12 meters, 3 feet 8 inches, of that below ground. Its diameter is 41 centimeters 16 inches at the base, tapering to about 30.6 centimeters 12 inches at the top. Makes this ancient structure so extraordinary as its incredible resistance to rust and corrosion, despite having been exposed to the elements for over 1,600 years. Pillar bears several inscriptions, the most prominent of which is in Sanskrit, written in Brahmi script. This inscription attributes its erection to a powerful king named Chandra, generally identified by scholars as Chandragupta, the second Vikramaditya of the Gupta Empire, who reigned from around 375 to 415 AD. The inscription states that the pillar was erected as a Vishnudvaha, standard of the god Vishnu, on a hill known as Vishnupada, in memory of the king's victories. It was later moved to its current location in Delhi by a Tamara king in the 11th century. For centuries, the pillar's ability to withstand corrosion has puzzled scientists and visitors alike. While it is not entirely rust-proof, a thin layer of protective rust does cover its surface. Its level of preservation is exceptional compared to modern iron exposed for similar durations. This has led to various speculations, including theories about extraterrestrial origins or lost ancient technologies far superior to our own. However, scientific analysis has provided more down-to-earth explanations. Metallurgists have found that the pillar is made of nearly pure wrought iron, 99.72% iron, with a very low carbon content and a high phosphorus content, up to 0.25%, much higher than modern iron. This high phosphorus content is believed to be key to its corrosion resistance. During the forging process, phosphorus, present as an impurity in the iron ore used by the ancient Indian blacksmiths, promoted the formation of a thin, protective, passive layer of iron hydrogen, phosphate hydrate, H3PO4*, 4H2O, on the surface of the pillar. This layer, less than 1/20th of a millimeter thick, acts as a barrier, significantly slowing down the rusting process. Other contributing factors include the relatively dry and mild climate of Delhi for much of the year, and the traditional practice of anointing the pillar with ghee, clarified butter, during religious ceremonies, which may have further protected its surface. The method of its construction, forge welding successive discs of hot iron, also resulted in a unique microstructure that may contribute to its longevity. While the mystery of its corrosion resistance has largely been solved by modern science, the iron pillar of Delhi remains a testament to the advanced metallurgical skills of ancient Indian craftsmen. They may not have understood the precise chemistry involved, but through generations of experience and refinement of their techniques, they were able to produce an iron structure of such purity and composition that it has endured for millennia, a shining example of ancient technological prowess that still impresses engineers today. It challenges the notion that all ancient metallurgy was primitive, showing a sophisticated understanding of materials that was in this instance inadvertently perfect for longevity. Number 4. The stone spheres of Costa Rica, perfectly carved pre-Columbian mysteries. Scattered across the Diquis Delta and on Isla del Caño in southern Costa Rica are several hundred enigmatic stone spheres, locally known as Las Bolas. These petrospheres range in size from a few centimeters to over 2 meters, 6.6 feet in diameter, with the largest weighing an estimated 15 tons. Most are carved from gabbro, a hard igneous rock similar to basalt, but some are made of limestone or sandstone. What makes these spheres so intriguing is their near-perfect sphericity, and the mystery surrounding their origin, purpose, and the methods used to create them. The spheres were first brought to widespread attention in the 1930s, when the United Fruit Company was clearing jungle for banana plantations. Workers encountered these massive stone balls, often partially buried. Unfortunately, many spheres were damaged or destroyed by bulldozers or dynamited by treasure hunters who mistakenly believed they contained gold. Some were moved from their original locations to serve as lawn ornaments or status symbols. Archaeological investigations suggest that the spheres were created by the ancestors of the indigenous peoples who inhabited the region, likely associated with the now extinct Diquis culture. The period of their construction is estimated to span from around 600 AD to as late as 1500 AD, just before the Spanish conquest. However, dating the spheres themselves is difficult, as the rock they are made from is ancient. Dating is usually based on the archaeological context in which they are found, such as associated pottery shards or stratigraphic layers. How these ancient people, without advanced tools or knowledge of mathematics as we understand it, managed to create such precisely shaped spheres is a major puzzle. While not all are perfectly spherical, many are remarkably close. Theories suggest they were painstakingly shaped by pecking and grinding with other stones, followed by polishing with sand or leather. This would have required immense skill, patience, and a deep understanding of stoneworking. Their purpose is even more mysterious. No written records from the Diquis culture exist to explain them. Many spheres were found arranged in patterns, such as lines, triangles, or clusters, often associated with plazas or the approaches to important dwellings. This has led to speculation that they may have had astronomical significance, perhaps used as celestial calendars or to mark alignments with stars or constellations. Other theories propose they were status symbols for chieftains, markers of tribal boundaries, religious or ceremonial objects, or simply artistic expressions. Local legends speak of them being cannonballs of the gods or containing hidden treasures. The exact techniques used for their creation and their symbolic meaning have largely been lost with the culture that produced them. The Costa Rican stone spheres stand as silent monuments to a sophisticated pre-Columbian society. They challenge our assumptions about the technological and artistic capabilities of ancient peoples in the Americas. Each sphere, patiently hewn from solid rock, is a testament to a forgotten purpose, an enduring enigma that continues to captivate researchers and the public alike, inviting us to ponder the lost knowledge of their creators. Number 3. The Beeon Pipes, ancient industrial relics or natural formations. In a remote and desolate region of China's Dendura province, near the city of Delingha, lies Mount Beeon. At the foot of this mountain are 3 unusual triangular caves, and within one of them, as well as on the nearby shores of Lake Kozan, a series of pipe-like structures have been found that have ignited considerable controversy and speculation. These Beeon pipes appear to be metallic and embedded within ancient rock. Pipes were first reported in the late 1990s and early 2000s, gaining attention through Chinese state media. Some of the pipes are large, up to 40 centimeters, 16 inches in diameter, and are described as running from the cave interior deep into the mountainside. Others are smaller, ranging from toothpick-sized to a few inches across, found scattered on the surface near the caves and along the lake. They exhibit a reddish-brown color, similar to rusted iron. Intriguingly, some of the pipes are said to be arranged in an orderly fashion, suggesting intentional placement. Initial analyses conducted by a local smeltery reportedly found that the pipes are composed mainly of iron oxide, with significant amounts of silicon dioxide and calcium oxide. A surprisingly high percentage, around 8%, of an unidentified element was also reported, though this finding is often disputed or lacks detailed confirmation. The rock in which some of these pipes are embedded has been estimated by some to be millions of years old, although dating such formations is complex and often relies on dating the surrounding geological strata. If the pipes are indeed artificial and coeval with the rock formation, it would imply an advanced civilization existing at an impossibly early date. These findings have led to a flurry of theories. Some proponents of ancient astronaut theories or lost civilizations suggest the Beeon pipes are remnants of an ancient industrial complex, perhaps an outpost or launch site for extraterrestrial visitors, or evidence of a highly advanced unknown terrestrial civilization. The remote location and the seemingly organized layout of some pipes fuel these ideas. However, geologists and skeptics offer more conventional explanations. They propose that the pipes could be natural geological formations, such as pseudomorphs resulting from the infilling of tree roots or other organic matter with iron-rich sediments that later solidified and underwent diagenesis, the process of sediments turning into rock. Fossilized tree roots can sometimes create pipe-like structures. Another possibility is that they are iron-rich, sandstone concretions, or hematite tubes, formed through natural geological processes, where mineral-rich fluids percolate through porous rock and deposit minerals in cylindrical patterns. The region is known for its iron-rich sediments. The lack of thorough peer-reviewed scientific investigation published in international journals makes it difficult to definitively assess the nature of the Beeon pipes. Much of the information comes from initial reports and less formal studies. Without more rigorous analysis, including detailed petrographic studies, isotopic dating of the pipes themselves if possible, and a comprehensive geological survey of the area, the Beeon pipes remain a curious anomaly. Are they evidence of an impossibly ancient technology, or a fascinating example of how natural geological processes can sometimes mimic artificial structures? The mystery of Mount Beeon's pipes continues to echo from the remote Chinese landscape. Number 2. The Kaso Carrit, a spark plug in a 500,000-year-old geode. In February 1961, Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Mikesell were searching for geodes near Olancha, California, in the Coso Mountains. Geodes are rock cavities lined with crystals or other mineral matter. They found one particular specimen that seemed unusually heavy. The next day, Mikesell was cutting it open with a diamond saw when the blade jammed. Inside, instead of the expected crystal formation, he found something that looked remarkably like a modern spark plug. The object, dubbed the Kaso Carrit, consisted of a central metallic rod about 2 millimeters in diameter, encased in a ceramic or porcelain-like cylinder. This, in turn, was surrounded by a hexagonal sleeve made of a material described as decomposing copper, and an outer layer of hardened clay, pebbles, and shell fragments, the geode material itself. X-rays of the object reportedly showed a tiny spring or helix at one end of the metallic rod, similar to the internal components of some spark plugs. What made this discovery truly astounding were the claims about its age. Geologists, who allegedly examined the rock encasing the Beckett, estimated it to be around 500,000 years old. If a spark plug, a relatively modern invention, the first commercially viable spark plugs appeared in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, was found inside a half-million-year-old geode, it would shatter conventional historical and evolutionary timelines. This led to widespread speculation about ancient advanced civilizations, time travelers, or even extraterrestrial visitors leaving behind their technology. However, the Kaso Partup is shrouded in mystery and controversy, and detailed scientific verification is lacking. The original discoverers were not scientists, and the initial examinations were not conducted under rigorous controlled conditions. The Beckett was displayed for a time in the 1960s, but its current whereabouts are unknown, making further independent analysis impossible. Skeptics have raised several critical points. Firstly, the geode might not have been a true geode formed over geological timescales, but rather a concretion, a hardened mass of mineral matter that can form relatively quickly around a nucleus. Such concretions can encase modern objects dropped or buried in sediment. Secondly, the identification of the object as a spark plug has been challenged. While it bears a superficial resemblance, some investigators like Pierre Stromberg and Paul Heinrich proposed that it was more likely a 1920s-era champion spark plug, which could have become encased in iron oxide and other minerals through natural processes, if it had been lost or discarded in an environment conducive to concretion formation, such as an old mining area. The Kaso Mountains have a history of mining activity. Claim of a 500,000-year age for the encasing rock has also been heavily disputed, as it was not based on radiometric dating of the object itself, but on the general geology of the area where it was found, or on the supposed fossil content of the outer layer, which was never professionally verified. Without access to the Beckett for modern scientific testing, the Kaso Carrit remains an out-of-place Babek, Upart, whose extraordinary claims are not matched by extraordinary evidence. Was it a genuine prehistoric anomaly, or simply a misidentified modern object encased in a rapidly formed concretion? The disappearance of the Beckett itself ensures the debate continues, fueled by tantalizing initial reports and a lack of conclusive proof. Number 1. The Fuente Magnabol, Sumerian script in ancient Bolivia. In the 1950s or early 1960s, a large, intricately carved stone bowl was reportedly discovered by a worker near Lake Titicaca in Bolivia. This Beckett, known as the Fuente Magnabol, meaning great fountain or great source, is about the size of a large salad bowl made of earthenware and features zoological motifs and most controversially incised characters that bear a striking resemblance to Proto-Sumerian cuneiform script. Sumerian civilization flourished in Mesopotamia thousands of miles away, from around 4500 BC to 1900 BC. The bowl eventually made its way to the Museum of Precious Metals Museo de Metales Preciosos in La Paz, Bolivia, where it remains today. For decades, it was largely considered a curiosity or perhaps a hoax, given the seemingly impossible connection between ancient South America and the Near East. However, in the late 1990s and early 2000s, researchers like Bernardo Biodos and Freddie Arce, and later the epigrapher Dr. Clyde Winters, took a renewed interest in the inscriptions. Dr. Winters, an American linguist and anthropologist, claimed to have deciphered the script on the Fuente Magnabol, identifying it as Proto-Sumerian or a related Lignea Elamite script. His proposed translation speaks of a local oracle or goddess named Nia and rituals associated with her. He suggested that Sumerian seafarers might have reached South America, possibly establishing trade or settlements, and that the bowl was used for libations or religious ceremonies. Presence of such script in Bolivia would imply transoceanic contact between the Old World and the New World, thousands of years before Columbus, radically altering our understanding of ancient history and seafaring capabilities. The authenticity and interpretation of the Fuente Magnabol are highly debated. Mainstream archaeologists and linguists are generally skeptical. They point out that the bowl's provenance is poorly documented. Its exact discovery, location, and circumstances are unclear, which is problematic for authenticating archaeological artifacts. Some suggest the carvings could be a local script that coincidentally resembles Sumerian, or that they are a modern forgery designed to create a sensation. The style of the zoological carvings on the bowl is also considered by some to be more in line with local Tiwanaku or post-Tiwanaku cultures, roughly 300 AD to 1000 AD, rather than Sumerian. Furthermore, there is no other corroborating archaeological evidence in South America, such as Sumerian tools, pottery, or settlements, to support the theory of a Sumerian presence. The idea of Sumerians, whose maritime activities were largely confined to the Persian Gulf and possibly the Arabian Sea, undertaking a voyage across the Atlantic or Pacific to reach Bolivia in antiquity is considered highly improbable. Critics of Winters' decipherment argue that the script is too short for a definitive translation and that resemblances can be coincidental. They also question the methodology used in the decipherment. The bowl itself is a tangible object, but its story is far from clear. Is the Fuente Magnabol a genuine relic of transoceanic contact that rewrites history? Is it a product of a local unknown script? Or is it a clever fake? Without more conclusive evidence or comparative artifacts, the inscriptions on this enigmatic Bolivian bowl continue to whisper of possibilities that defy conventional times and historical narratives, leaving us to wonder about the true extent of interactions between ancient civilizations